Hello everybody and welcome. In today's video, we're going to continue our exploration of FM26 tactics. And let's get started with an overview. We'll be looking at the 4-2-3-1 formation today, and it's going to be a good litmus test on the FM26 versus FM24 match engines. Because a big downside of the 4-2-3-1 is the fact that those wing players are positioned high up the field, but with FM26 we can change that. So let's get started with my tactical ideas. First is the in possession system, which will be that 4-2-3-1. And out of possession, I want to get a sort of 4-4-2 shape. We'll also be looking at some new player roles. In particular, I want to look at the free role and how it plays out in the match engine. Finally, like the last video, we'll be looking to create some kind of cohesion with this tactic. Not every role has to be in perfect sync with each other, but they won't necessarily be haphazardly put together either. For our club, we are back with Kyoto in the J-League. Let's start breaking down the in possession 4-2-3-1. Up top, it's the channel striker. I think the center forward would probably work better here, but I was curious how a striker running into the channels affected our play. This is more of I know what one striker will do, so let's try something else to see how it works. In the number 10, I'm using that free role. This is the role I'm most curious about to see in the match engine. My guess is it plays a lot like the trequartista. On the left flank, the inside winger. It seems the difference between the winger and inside forward is pretty stark in this version, so let's see what a combination of those two holds. On the other side, the wide forward. I wanted a role that stayed wide, but since I've used the winger a few times, I wanted to try something else, and we'll get into why here in a second. In the midfield, the wide channel midfielder and the attacking midfielder. My guess is the channel role will get in the way of the inside winger, but that's what's fun about experimenting, seeing how the roles actually play out. The two center backs are normal and the left fullback will be the fullback. The fullback and inverted winger were an exceptional combo in old FMs, so let's see how the fullback pairs with the inside winger. On the right flank, the playmaking wing back. I imagine it'll be like an inside wing back on attack, but with natural playmaking tendencies. The reason why I chose the attacking midfielder is to keep that center midfield free for the playmaker on that side. And it's also why I went with the wide forward. Like the channel forward, I'd probably choose the winger in this situation, but I am curious about exploring the wide forward some more. Let's talk about the out of possession shape now. It's a 4-4-1-1, so essentially all the midfielders drop back a position. Up top, I've got the tracking center forward. With this role, I think we can get like a 4-4-2 defensive shape, but with midfielders instead of two strikers up top. The outlet attacking midfielder will sit a little higher to be an outlet. The two flanks are standard wide midfielders. The defensive midfielders are more experimentation. I wanted to use the wide covering role and the pressing role. Where are they positioned in our defensive shape? In the back four are simple fullbacks and center backs, which gives us our two formations side by side. There are no team instructions or individual player instructions. Let's head to the next section and start breaking down some highlights. The first one starts with the wide channel midfielder on the ball after a throw-in. Here's the inside winger in the free role. The play continues and the inside winger and fullback combine to get it to the free role. Now, based on the natural implication of the role, I imagine that the free role won't usually be found here. Like, could we see him here, or maybe here? And does the role improve positioning with more experience and team cohesion? In any case, our attacking midfielder is able to get the ball in the box and score the goal. Here's the play again in 3D. The next highlight once again starts with a channel midfielder on the ball, and this gives us a better look at the inside winger. They definitely sit wider compared with the inside forward, but not as wide as the winger. I like that we're seeing some stark differences in the role, at least in these early analyses. The playmaking wing back sits very much like a midfield playmaker. But now that we've got it on the wing, here's the free role again, and it's kinda like I thought. They have the freedom to push up and occupy different spaces in your tactic, very much like a trequartista. When the channel striker, we're getting some stickiness with the 3 roles clustered here. I think maybe that thought about the center forward or even a poacher being the better choice would work here, since those roles wouldn't drift as far out. The wide forward, however, does make a forward run to get a chance in on goal. Here's the play again at full speed. Let's check out some defensive highlights. Starts with the opponent on the ball, and we'll watch the wide covering defensive midfielder, alongside the wide midfielder in this one. I like how their defensive combination helps shut down those plays out wide. Eventually, we force the turnover. Here's another defensive highlight to wrap up. The opponent has the ball in their own half, and you may have noticed that we're defending in a near 4-4-2, mainly in part to the positioning of the tracking center forward, very reminiscent of the pressing forward on defend in FM24. They pass it around a bit and the 2 banks of 4 are positioned well, shutting off passing lanes. If I wanted, I could change the outlet attacking midfielder to tracking, and he dropped to occupy this space here. The wide midfielders are a nice balance of roles that press and ones that drop. We're going to get the turnover, but we'll watch the rest of that play in 3D so you can see how we transition from defending to attacking. We're nearing the end of the beta release, but approaching the full release of the game. I still may do a few of these more experimental videos as we get used to version 1.0, but it won't be long now till we restart those player role videos. Speaking of player roles, if you'd like some player role shirts or a digital FM planner, you can check out the Half Space Apparel online store. I've also got a Patreon account if you'd like to support the channel. Anyway, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching.